Last night my wife didn't come home. I didn't shout, slam doors, or beg. I poured a black coffee, set a 4-line note on the counter. I'm gone. Good luck to you and your lover. And walked into my garage. The lights came on over steel and oil. Name's Jack Miller. 15 years turning dead engines into thunder at Route 66 garage. I keep receipts, always. This morning I picked up a torque wrench big enough to snap rusted bolts and headed for her white Porsche, the one with options that cost more than a new Mustang. People say revenge is best served cold. I prefer precision. Cold is a mood. Precision is a method. 4 valve cores, 1 breath, a hiss like a starter pistol. That was lesson 1. What comes next isn't rage, it's teardown. If you think the wrench is for the car, you're not ready for part 2. Because in my world, truth clicks torque to spec every time. Name's Jack Miller, owner of Route 66 Garage, where V8s get second chances every day. 15 years, 2 lifts, 1 coffee pot, and 100 pairs of grateful hands shaking mine. I keep ledgers, torque specs, and promises. Older guys appreciate that kind of straight, steady work. Judges, teachers, and linemen roll in with broken belts and roll out with engines singing again. My father taught me patience, my first boss taught me receipts, and life taught me backup plans. I'm not fancy, but I'm thorough. Every bolt bagged, every step logged, every test road driven. The shop smells like oil, cold steel, and dignity, the kind you earn before sunrise. Men my age know tools don't lie, and a well-kept notebook saves money and pride. Lately, though, the quiet after closing felt different, like a misfire you only hear alone. Last night, the house matched that quiet exactly, and her white Porsche wasn't in its stall. I came home 2 hours late, work tired in that good way. Sore feet, clear head. The kitchen light was off, the kind of off that isn't peaceful, just hollow. Her phone went to voicemail, then to silence, like a battery pulled. I stood in the garage doorway longer than I needed, staring at a clean rectangle of concrete where the Porsche usually sat. That empty space felt louder than any argument we'd ever had. I made coffee, not for comfort, but for clarity. Caffeine is better than anger. Guys know this feeling when something that never moves has moved and nobody told you. A neighbor texted our community chat. Pretty sure I saw your wife's Porsche at the Hilton downtown. Not accusation, just a practical update like reporting a pothole. I didn't slam a door. I grabbed my spare key fob, the folder with our insurance cards, and a pen. I drove toward the city, listening to the engine idle a little too smooth. Valet had the Porsche parked under bright lights, shiny like a sales brochure. My spare fob chirped, doors unlocked, and the cabin smell hit me. Vanilla perfume and gym powder. Passenger mat pocket, a folded sheet, crisp, not stuffed. Hilton downtown Chicago, room 207. Check-in, 2:04 p.m., check-out next day at noon. 2 names, hers and his. I didn't curse. I steadied my phone, snapped photos in place, timestamp on, wide and close, edges and shadows. Men my age know this rhythm. You don't swing first, you document first. I checked the console lid, didn't open it yet. I put the receipt back exactly how I found it. Then I took one more photo of the odometer and the valet tag. Little things matter when truth goes to court, or to the court of public opinion. I relocked the car, slid the key into my pocket, and stepped back to breathe. Paper doesn't lie. Paper also doesn't hug you goodnight. Back at the Porsche, I opened the small console drawer with 2 fingers, slow as surgery. Inside, men's cufflinks, heavy stainless, initials CJ, and the faint smell of cologne I don't wear. Not a gift I forgot. Not something that rolled in by accident. I set them on the leather for a second, then photographed front, back, and placement. Folks my age cataloged photos of our kids growing. Now we catalog the truth when life turns sideways. I slid the cufflinks into a sandwich bag from my glove box. Mechanics always have bags for bolts and evidence. I looked at the dash clock, 2 in the morning. Not panic hours, precision hours. I closed everything in reverse order, wiped a fingerprint I couldn't swear was mine, and restored that showroom tidy. My heart didn't race. My hands steadied like when I set valve lash on a hot motor. One more step remained in the cabin. I tapped the dashcam housing, and it tapped back. She'd had me install that dash cam last year after a fender bender. Front cam, cabin mic, loop recording, neat and forgettable. I know its guts like I know a small block. Micro SD in the side, files by date, audio auto on unless you kill it. I eased the card out and slid in my spare, the way you swap a filter before a road trip. In the lobby, I sat in a quiet corner with coffee that tasted like burned toast and waited for files to copy. I watched little progress bars crawl while the night got thin and the cleaning crew rolled carts like muffled thunder. Nothing dramatic, just the kind of patience older men understand. Fishing line in still water, letting the truth swim to you. When the copy finished, I pocketed the card, thanked the empty room, and drove home on lights and logic. I didn't listen yet. Sometimes you steady your hands before you steady your heart. At the garage, I plugged the card into my shop laptop, the one with greasy keys and a clean sole. I scrolled to Tuesday, clicked play, and let the cabin mic fill the speakers. Her voice first, calm and sharp. Jack's a pushover. A couple more weeks, the house is mine, and that dusty garage gets sold. A man's laugh followed, low and confident. We'll need the cash fast for the wellness center. He'll sign. He always does. I paused, breathed, and pressed play again, not to punish myself, but to hear the details. Freeze the story before he smells it, he said. Then we upgrade everything. They weren't whispering about love. They were drafting a budget. I stopped the file and stared at my reflection in the laptop screen. Men like me fix things for a living, but some breaks are a choice, not an accident. I closed the window and opened a new one titled Plan. Evidence first, emotions later. I pulled the hard drive from the home security box I'd installed myself, labeled the cables with blue painter's tape, and set the whole thing in a padded case. I printed our car titles, business registration, tax summaries, and last quarter's invoices. I'm old school. Paper spreads truth across a table you can stand over. Then I made a copy of every photo and recording onto 2 USB drives, one for my safe, one for a friend's. Guys my age don't trust single points of failure. I brewed another black coffee and cleaned the workbench until the stainless shined. The garage radio played an old Springsteen song about work and roads, and it felt right. This wasn't about yelling. It was about stacking facts like washers before the nut goes on. By 3 a.m., the pile looked like a tidy mountain. I wrote 3 words on a yellow pad. Document, disable, disarm. Underlined all 3. Twice. I logged into our bank, then the credit cards. 6 months of lines, each a breadcrumb. Older men know the drill. You catch fraud in the small stuff. Subscriptions you never clicked, stores you never visit, wellness charges that smell like air freshener and lies. There it was. New card opened without my knowledge, cash-like transactions, and a few big purchases coded as health services. Not illegal by itself, just convenient. I downloaded statements, circled dates, and matched them against the dashcam timestamps. Patterns tightened like a new belt on a clean pulley. Every mystery wants a map. I was drawing one. It wasn't jealousy keeping me awake. It was math. You can't fix a budget or a marriage without looking at numbers, even when they hurt. I saved everything to the 2 drives, shut the laptop, and stared at the clock. Long night. Clear head. Next step needed daylight, and a different kind of tool. At the whiteboard, I sketched the plan like an engine diagram. Intake, compression, power, exhaust. Intake, gather proof and keep copies off-site. Compression, limit their oxygen. Cards paused, access narrowed, assets identified as business property. Power, set the trap they choose. A clean-looking agreement with liabilities riding the deed they want so badly. Exhaust, public truth, once, cleanly, where lies can't breathe. No legal jargon, just steps and timing. I listed calls for morning, Tom Harris at the bank, Attorney Parker for language I'd keep simple, Mike for a tow using company paperwork. I wrote no rage in the corner, start it twice. Men my age know hot engines crack blocks, cool engines run forever. Dawn thinned the garage windows, gray first, then honest light. I wiped my hands, set my note for the kitchen counter, and lined up my tools. At 5 a.m., there would be a gentle hiss to start the day, and the teardown. First light hit the shop windows when I dialed Tom Harris, ex-cop, now bank security, He's the guy you call when money and trouble start dating. Tom answers like it's still roll call. I gave him the facts, not the feelings. Hilton receipt, dashcam audio, cufflinks with initials, the new card I never opened. He listened without interrupting, only clearing his throat when I mentioned the business assets. You want protection, not a brawl, he said. Exactly. Men our age have learned that a calm voice moves faster than a raised one. Tom set a slot. 9 a.m., manager's office. 15 minutes tops. Bring paper. Bring respect. The way he said respect felt like a key turning. I printed duplicates, packed them in a clean folder, and added a notepad with dates and simple bullet points. Old habits from shop estimates. Keep it short, keep it true. I hung up, checked my watch, and smiled. The morning was officially on my side. Before I left, I wrote a 4-line note on a yellow pad and signed my name. I'm gone. Good luck to you and your lover. No sarcasm, no threats, just punctuation. I placed it on the counter beside the salt shaker we bought at a roadside diner during better years. Men in my bracket understand that some sentences fix what shouting never can. I took a photo of the note where it sat, time-stamped, then folded a copy into my wallet. It wasn't drama. It was documentation. That kept my hands steady. I rinsed my coffee mug, turned it upside down to dry, and listened to the house hum. The refrigerator motor kicked on like a distant generator, faithful and indifferent. I locked the door behind me, feeling that clip in the chest, the kind that comes when you choose yourself. That paper wasn't a goodbye, it was a boundary. The morning air tasted honest. The next move needed steel and patience. The Porsche sat in the garage like a white lie in church clothes. I pulled the valve tool from my top drawer, the one labeled small and sharp. 4 valve cores, one by one, with the care I use on classic tires that cost more than rent. The hiss rose in a clean chorus, not angry, just final, like a starter pistol at a track meet. Men who've changed flats in the rain know that sound. It says, "We're not going anywhere right now." I set each core in a tiny zip bag with today's date, then stepped back to watch the rubber sink. Half an inch, then an inch, then that slight ripple as the rim takes the weight. There's a lesson you learn turning wrenches. Systems fail slow, then suddenly. I took a photo for my file, close enough to see the valve threads and my reflection in the chrome. The garage echoed. The day had officially begun with air and silence. Evidence needs a caretaker, not a hero. I opened the hall closet, pulled the security DVR I'd installed, and labeled every cable with blue painter's tape. Front door, backyard, garage. Damn, old guy neatness saves hours and arguments. The DVR's fan wound down like a small plane landing, and that sound felt like relief. I slid the hard drive into a padded case, plus the dashcam card clone I'd made at the hotel. Redundancy isn't paranoia, it's experience. In the shop office, I saved mirror copies onto 2 USB drives, one for my safe, one for Tom if things turned sideways. I photographed the setup before and after, timestamps tight, shadows honest. Then I wiped my hands, cleaned the workbench until it looked like a stainless mirror, and stacked the evidence folder on top. The difference between anger and order is a checklist. I took a breath. Next, utilities. You don't yank the battery, you pull fuses in sequence. At 7:20 a.m., I called power, water, and internet. Suspending service in 48 hours, owner traveling, I said, polite as Sunday. 2 reps asked if everything was okay. Everything's getting there, I answered, and meant it. Men my age have sat on hold through worse storms, layoffs, medical bills, funerals nobody prepared for. I noted confirmation numbers on my yellow pad, circled times, and underlined the window when silence would arrive at that house whether they liked it or not. This wasn't cruelty, it was containment. You can't keep a fire roaring when the vents are closing. I sent myself a quick email recap with those numbers, then printed it. Paper calms a man who's been lied to. Before hanging up, I checked my watch. Time to move. Banks don't wait, and respect runs on the hour. I washed my face in the shop sink, changed my shirt, and pocketed the folder. The day's next tool wasn't a wrench, it was a handshake. You don't tow a car you don't own, and you don't argue ownership you can prove. I pulled the corporate binder, articles of organization, asset list, title copies, insurance declarations, all the boring pages that keep a working man out of court. The Porsche's paperwork was right where I'd filed it months ago, assigned to the company for client runs and parts pickups. I highlighted the relevant lines, then drafted a clean asset recovery notice on letterhead, naming the vehicle, VIN, and reason, annual safety inspection and inventory verification. Mechanics don't bluff, we document. Men who've signed mortgage papers know the comfort of lines initialed in ink. I added my signature, notary stamp appointment pending, and made 3 copies, one for my records, one for the tow, one for anyone who wanted to argue. I slid the notice into the folder behind the Hilton receipt. 2 stories, 1 truth. The clock read 8:25. Chicago traffic eats minutes. I grabbed keys and moved. Tom met me at the bank doors and walked me past a line of folks paying car notes. Manager's office smelled like paper and printer heat. I laid out my folder like a tool roll. Receipt, cufflinks photo, dash cam transcript, asset documents, bank statements with circles in red. No drama, just sequence. Men in their 50s appreciate a straight line from problem to proof. The manager glanced at Tom, who gave a small nod that said, "This isn't gossip." I spoke low and clear. "Joint funds may be abused. Business assets at risk. I'm requesting temporary controls." The manager folded his hands, the kind of posture that measures stories against policies. "We can review," he said. "Short window." He read, page by page, tapping his pen when dates matched. That tap felt like torque clicking home. He asked 3 questions, all practical. I answered with facts, not adjectives. 15 minutes can be forever when your life's on the desk. "When there's credible risk of financial abuse, we can implement temporary holds," the manager said, eyes on the policy screen. Men my age don't need to see the entire manual. A sentence like that is oxygen. He explained the steps, flagged transactions, verification calls on anything large, a pause on cash-like transfers, not permanent, not punishment, protection. I nodded. It felt like easing a car onto ramps. Secure the wheels before you crawl underneath. He typed. Tom watched, and I sat still, hearing only the keyboard and my heartbeat learning a slower rhythm. The manager printed a summary of actions with today's date and his signature. I filed it behind the dash cam transcript. We shook hands. "This buys time," he said. "Use it wisely." Men who've survived layoffs know time is the only raise you can give yourself. I thanked them both and stood. Outside, buses sighed at the curb. My turn to move a different lever. Back at the desk, the manager asked, "Any business cards authorized in her name?" I handed over the company account agreement, with the clause that lets the owner revoke users. No lecture, just a line highlighted in yellow. He clicked through screens, the kind that look the same for every company in America, then read back the names tied to my business. "Remove authorization," I said. His eyes met mine. "You understand this cuts off access immediately?" Men my age don't say yes lightly. "Yes." He pressed enter, and a small box popped up. "Confirm changes?" He turned the screen so I could see. I read it once, then again, the way I read torque specs before a final pull. "Confirm." He printed receipts for the changes, initialed them, and stapled them clean. The clerk at the next station chatted about lunch. I tucked the papers into my folder and breathed. Credit isn't love. It's a lever. Mine again. Walking out into late morning, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. My own hand back on the wheel. Not triumph. Grip. Men in my lane know the difference. Triumph is for trophies. Grip gets you home. I sat in the truck, opened the folder, and reread the top page until the words were just ink and order. The anger that had lived behind my ribs stepped back a pace, like a loud neighbor finally closing his door. I texted Mike Dawson. "Be ready. Asset notice signed. Tow after lunch." He replied with a thumbs up and a marine joke about targets and timelines. I smiled, checked my watch, and started the engine. The radio gave me classic rock and the road gave me space to think. I wasn't finished. I was finally starting. Next stop wasn't revenge. It was maintenance, on my finances, my name, my future. The light turned green. The plan shifted gears. The day had room for one more move. I pulled into the driveway with my work truck and backed toward the Porsche like it was any other job. Paper beats volume, so I taped my asset recovery notice to the driver window. Company vehicle, VIN listed, annual safety inspection required. Neighbors peeked through blinds the way folks do when a tow truck shows up on their street. I didn't raise my voice or flash a badge I don't have. I just hooked the front end and kept the chains quiet. Men my age know this rhythm. If you've got title and purpose, you don't need drama. As the lift took weight, the car rose slow, tires soft against the straps, like a lie giving up the ghost. I snapped a photo of the notice, the hook points, the odometer. Documentation closes mouths. I eased the lever, checked the load twice, and pulled away. The garage door swallowed the Porsche like a file going into a cabinet. The street stayed silent. The message didn't. Back at Route 66 garage, Mike Dawson rolled in with coffee and that old Marine grin. Steady, simple, reliable. We've split engines and bad news together. He knows where I keep the good ratchets and the quiet truths. I laid out the folder, then the next part. I need you to play a part. Short run, big payoff. He listened like a man checks a rifle, no wasted motion. You're a lottery winner, new money, curious about health investments. Friendly, not flashy. Interested, not desperate. Mike nodded. Borrow the Bentley from Carl, wear the Vegas suit, ditch the Marine haircut under a ball cap. We set code words for calls. Oil means pause, filter means abort. Men our age plan exits before entrances. We've learned that from marriages, jobs, and winters. Mike took the new phone I'd activated and read the cue card twice. You sure? He asked. I'm steady, I said. He pocketed the phone and smiled. Let's tighten some bolts. Attorney Parker keeps an office that smells like ink and old books, the kind of place where words weigh more than noise. I laid my evidence in a neat line. Receipt, photos, transcripts, account notes. I don't want a brawl, I said. I want a clean exit that protects the shop and my future. He adjusted his glasses. You're proposing a divorce draft that looks generous, house to her, half the cash, but keeps your business intact. I nodded. Men in our bracket understand trades. Give on paint, protect the frame. Parker sketched a simple outline. Plain language, timelines tight, signatures witnessed. Short, readable, enforceable, he said. If they rush, they'll think they won. I asked for one more thing. Debt follows what it's stuck to, plain and simple. He tapped his pen, thinking like a man hearing a faint knock in an engine. We'll keep it lawful and clear enough, but not generous to fools. I signed the instruction. The clock said go. We wrote the line the way mechanics talk, not lawyers. All liabilities tied to the property as of transfer remain with that property. No smoke, no Latin. If you want the house, you take its weight. Parker raised an eyebrow, the way a man does when he sees a clever jig he wishes he'd built first. This will hold, he said, if timing's right and papers are clean. Men my age don't trust cute tricks. We trust tolerances. I asked for a 30-day transfer window and a clear handoff schedule. Who signs what, when, and where. We highlighted those lines in yellow and bolded the due dates. I want a draft anyone can read in one cup of coffee, not a maze you get lost in. Parker slid the pages across the desk. They looked ordinary, which is what makes ordinary dangerous when you're rushed and greedy. You're calm, he said. I'm busy, I answered. Calm is what busy looks like. Parker leaned back. I'll warn you as a human, not your lawyer. This is surgical. You prepared for blowback? I smiled without teeth. Engines don't care about feelings, they care about tolerances. I'm setting clearances. Men who've rebuilt a transmission understand. One loose snap ring and you eat lunch on the shoulder. Stay lawful, he said. Document everything. Don't gloat. I nodded. Dignity isn't a show, it's a setting. We set the witness plan, the notary window, and the way signatures would be exchanged fast. Coffee shop neutral ground, no side conversations. Parker stapled a checklist to the back. Bring ID, print 2 copies, keep your mouth shut. I shook his hand, the old kind where you feel bone and intent. On the way out, I texted Mike, stage 2. He replied with a single wrench emoji. That little picture felt like a torque click in my pocket. Some men chase applause. I chase the sound of things seating right. We rehearsed at the shop after hours. Mike warmed up his aw shucks lottery story while I tuned lines like idle screws. 8 million total, after taxes 5 and change. I want to feel better, maybe invest in a wellness thing, he practiced. We gave him a cheap gold watch and a polite laugh, then had him practice shutting up, harder than talking. Men my age know the value of silence. It lets the other guy tell on himself. Carl dropped off the borrowed Bentley, and I laid out the costume. Loud sport coat, soft shoes, simple words. I loaded the new phone with a number we knew would reach Chad Johnson, trainer turned wellness consultant. The text Mike sent was short. Heard you're building something. Want to talk? 10 minutes later, 3 dots danced, then a hook set. Absolutely. I've got a plan you'll love. We pinned a time for the gym's juice bar. The bait didn't smell like money. It smelled like hurry. Chad Johnson walked in wearing a fitted tee and a grin you could see from the parking lot. Trainers learn to read people fast. Grifters learn it faster. He clocked the watch, the jacket, the Bentley fob Mike made sure to flash exactly once. "You're the lottery guy?" he said, voice buttered. Mike chuckled. Still getting used to it. Chad poured charm like protein powder. Big scoops, no measuring. "I'm building a high-end wellness center. Nutrition, stress work, lifestyle resets, real results," he said, tapping a glossy mock-up that looked printed yesterday because it was. Men over 50 have seen these binders. Thick on pictures, thin on math. Mike nodded at the right spots, asked 3 simple questions, and let silence do the heavy lifting. Chad filled it with promises. Quick returns, celebrity clients, exclusive locations. The air smelled like ambition and cheap disinfectant. When Mike mentioned serious funds, Chad's pupils widened a notch. He didn't blink. He'd taken the scent. Hook set deeper. We kept it old school at a corner table. No bragging, no selfies, just numbers on a napkin. Mike traced a circle and said, "I want to put 2 million to work. Not tomorrow, soon. I'm not a charity, but I like helping people." Men our age understand the line between generosity and gullibility. It's paved with timelines and terms. Chad smiled so wide his ears moved. "We can make you a partner. 30% conservative return. I'll show you the location tomorrow," he said, already spending money that didn't exist. Mike asked about staff, permits, and what happens if equipment delays. Chad waved it off with, "I've got a guy." There's always a guy. Then Mike made the play. "I need to sleep on it, talk to my accountant. But I like your energy, kid." They shook hands, and Chad squeezed like a man afraid of losing his grip. We left a generous tip and walked out slow. The napkin went in my folder. By evening, Karen had the draft agreement in her inbox. I pictured her at the kitchen island, glass of white wine sweating on the cork ring, skimming the bolded lines I wanted her to see. House to her, cash split fair. The clause about liabilities wrote in the middle like a bolt that looks plain until it shears your day. Chad texted her during dinner. "Tomorrow, big investor tour. Be ready. Greed loves company." She replied with a heart and a selfie of that smile I used to work for. Men who've loved and lost recognize the moment when you become a backdrop in your own life. Later, a post went up on her social media, new chapter loading, that our neighbors would pretend not to notice while noticing. She called about meeting at a coffee shop to sign. I said yes like a man accepts weather. It's coming either way. I printed 2 clean copies, pens ready, hands steady. Morning brought signatures and small talk in a coffee shop that smelled like cinnamon and decisions. Karen signed with a flourish. Chad hovered like a coach who didn't earn the trophy. I kept my voice mild and my eyes on the lines that mattered. We swapped pages, initialed boxes, and gathered our folders. "Clean break," I said. She nodded, already texting. Back at the garage, I set the papers beside the Porsche keys and turned to the monitor wall. Cameras I'd installed and never quite got around to removing. Their living room, their smiles, their plans, all moving without me. Men my age understand chess. The opening is quiet, the middle gets loud, and then one piece lands where it can't be undone. I called Parker to confirm the timeline and called my lender to confirm the other timeline. The board was set, clocks running. On screen, Chad lifted a glass to the future. I lifted my coffee to torque and timing. By noon, Karen tried to buy champagne like winners do. The card chirped, declined, and the cashier gave that careful smile people use when they don't want a scene. She tried a second card. Same sound, same smile. I've been that guy in line behind trouble. You stare at the gum rack, pretend not to hear, and pray for mercy. She called the bank right there, voice bright, then tight. Verification questions, the rep said. Large transactions require a callback. Men my age know hold music by heart. It's the soundtrack of bills and weather. Karen hung up before the answers arrived. She drove home fast, the kind of fast that burns fuel and patience. The garage door climbed, and the echo hit before the truth did. Empty bay, clean rectangle, no Porsche. She stood there in the half-dark, hand on the opener like it might rewind the day. It didn't. On the workbench, my note faced the light. So did the silence. Neighbors didn't hear the phone calls. They heard the scream. It started in the garage and rolled into the front yard, a raw, breaking glass sound I wouldn't wish on anybody. I've heard versions of it at funerals and in hospital parking lots at midnight. She spotted the paper I'd taped to the Porsche window, asset recovery notice, then realized the car wasn't on the street either. "You can't do this," she yelled to a sky that answers no one. A couple across the street froze mid-lawnmower. Another neighbor took a slow step back behind a mailbox. People our age know when to be helpful and when to be furniture. Karen dialed, paced, dialed again. The house watched her through windows we'd installed together back when we planned tomorrow instead of surviving today. She marched back inside to call Chad. The door slammed, but the echo stayed in the yard like a dent you can't buff out. The neighborhood had questions. She had one. Chad answered like a man who'd been polishing a pitch. "Relax, babe. I'll fix it." He called the bank, threw around confidence like confetti, and hit the same wall everyone hits. Policy. Flagged for verification. Temporary controls in place. His voice shifted, the way a trainer sounds when a client asks for results without reps. "We need access today," he said. The rep didn't blink. Reps never do. Men in my age bracket have sat on those calls for mortgages, surgeries, and tuition. You learn patience or ulcers. Chad tried a different angle. Transfers, cash advances, business expenses. The system stayed polite and firm. He hung up and called a second bank like changing lanes would move traffic. Same script, same result. He texted Mike, our lottery guy, pushing for the tour and a quick commitment. Money that isn't yours always seems urgent. Mike sent a smiley and a time. Chad told Karen to breathe. He told himself something else. Neither worked. Mike met Chad at the gym's juice bar with the Bentley key fob visible and his voice soft. "I like what you're building," he said. "Show me the spot." They drove 30 minutes to a strip of storefronts with more dreams than tenants. Chad pointed at a unit with a "coming soon" sign that had clearly been coming for years. "Picture it," he said, waving like a game show host. Men my age can picture a lot. We've also learned to ask rent, permits, plumbing. Mike stayed friendly and vague. "I'll get my accountant to peek. Tomorrow's good for me." On the way back, Chad talked returns and influencers. Mike talked daily walks and blood pressure. Older guys shift to health when the money talk starts running thin. Back at the lot, Mike clapped his shoulder. "Sleep on it. We'll circle up." Chad nodded too fast and texted Karen. "It's happening." He meant the deal. What was happening had already started, and not for him. Karen suggested a toast that night, even without champagne. "Clean break," she said, tapping a water glass on the counter where mail used to pile up. I pictured the coffee shop earlier, the pens, the initials, the way her signature swooped like a victory lap. Folks our age know that feeling after you sign a car note or a house closing. Relief, then a little fear. She took a photo of the signature page for her sister, posted a cropped version with a caption about new beginnings, and set her phone down like she'd set a trophy on a shelf. If I'm honest, a part of me remembered our first apartment, the cheap blinds, the pizza box, the way we believed in each other like rookies. That part kept quiet, while the smarter part stacked papers in order at the shop. Ink dries fast. So do choices. When the doorbell rang with a package she'd ordered yesterday, she smiled at the timing. Timing was the whole game. Morning gave me 2 calls to make. First, Parker confirmed receipt of the signed pages and the witness attestation. "Stay clean," Stay quiet, he said. I'm a mechanic, I answered. Clean and quiet is how engines live. Then I called my lender, a no-nonsense woman who has watched me grow a shop one honest invoice at a time. We spoke simply. Property address, equity, purpose. No drama, just math. Older men understand second mortgages the way we understand jack stands. You don't crawl under anything unsupported. Your payment history's spotless, she said. We can move quickly if docs are ready. They were. I'd built the packet like a parts kit. Titles, insurance, income statements, tax pages, all tabbed and legible. Timeline? I asked. Soon, she said. And in banking, soon is a language you learn by living. I sent scans, drove originals across town, and kept my face neutral. The world doesn't need my smile right now. It needs my signature. Underwriting is the adult version of a road test. You can say whatever you want about a car, but the drive tells the truth. My file went across a desk I've never seen, through a checklist I respect because checklists keep bridges standing. Employment verified, property confirmed, income matched to returns. I answered 2 clarifications by email, one about business revenue, one about insurance coverage, and attached fresh copies within the hour. Men in their 50s don't miss emails that hold the next 30 years. The lender called at 3 like she said she would. Looks good, she said. Final sign-offs pending before close of business. I thanked her and hung up without pumping a fist. Cheering is for ball games. This was calibration. I walked the shop floor, put tools back in their slots, and let the clock do what clocks do. On my desk, Parker's checklist reminded me of tolerances and timing. Across town, a different clock counted toward a different surprise. Just after 4, my phone buzzed with the kind of text that makes you sit down. Incoming wire confirmed. I opened the banking app and saw numbers that didn't look like my life until today. $650,000 is a big truck of a number. It casts a shadow even in bright rooms. I didn't celebrate. I printed the confirmation, slid it into the folder behind Parker's timeline, and breathed once, slow, like setting a delicate gasket. Men my age know what windfalls are and what they aren't. This wasn't a lottery. It was a lever. The money went into the account the agreement named, the debt anchored to the property the agreement promised. Plain words, simple physics. I called the lender to acknowledge receipt and to thank her team. Then I locked the office, turned off the shop lights, and stood a moment in the doorway. The day had given me fuel. Tomorrow would test the brakes. Either way, the road was mine to drive. Here's the part people miss when they chase the pretty. Weight hides in the frame. The second mortgage isn't a rumor. It's paperwork bolted to the deed. Payments scheduled, interest real, consequences automatic. If you want the house, you take its load. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. Men who've hauled campers across the plains understand tongue weight. Too light and you fishtail. Too heavy and you break. The clause said what it said in plain English. The timing placed what it placed before transfer. I pictured Karen sliding her new keys on a ring, dreaming of paint colors and a home gym. I pictured the first envelope stamped payment due with a number that crowds a kitchen table. People talk about karma like it floats around looking for a target. Debts don't float. They attach. The truth of machines and mortgages is the same. What you bolt on, you carry. And this house, this prize, came with torque set to spec. I didn't post a victory speech or text a gotcha. I took my coffee onto the shop's back step and watched the afternoon tilt toward evening the way men do when the workday's honest. Across town, they clinked glasses to our future, 2 folks who thought signatures are shields. Signatures are doors. You still have to walk through what's on the other side. My phone buzzed. Mike. Investor still in. Wants quick close. Good. Greed needs speed. Discipline needs clocks. I sent him a thumbs up and put the phone face down. The Porsche rested in Bay 2, tires aired down, dignity pending. Paperwork hung on a clipboard with the calm of gravity. Somewhere between us, a mail truck carried a letter printed an hour ago with a due date neither of them had circled yet. Checkmate isn't loud. It's a piece placed where no one can unplace it. I rinsed my mug, turned the sign to closed, and let silence do the talking. The first letter landed like a brick, white envelope, bank logo, polite font that never means anything good. Karen slid it open at the kitchen island where we'd once argued about backsplash tile. Payment due, $12,000. Not a typo, not a prank. She read it twice, then a third time, the way you read a diagnosis hoping the words rearrange. Men my age know that kitchen table silence when numbers outgrow breath. She called the bank, voice bright, then brittle. Verification this, due date that, promises about options if payments are kept current. She hung up with nothing but hold music stuck in her ear. Across town, I turned a wrench one click tighter and filed away the weight that now belonged to her. She texted Chad a photo of the letter. He texted back a bicep emoji and, "We got this." Emojis don't write checks. She stared at the fridge calendar like it could move a due date. It couldn't. Clocks don't bargain. Chad showed up to the gym early, the way men do when late won't help. He tried to coach a class, but his patter skipped. I've seen that tremor, guys pretending the bar isn't heavy. Between sets, he ducked into the office, called 2 clients, pitched limited founder spots, then checked his phone like it owed him loyalty. It didn't. A supplier emailed about past due invoices. He replied with "wire incoming," the universal prayer of people who don't have a wire. Older men know the feel of a bill you can't muscle through. He called Karen, told her to breathe, told himself to sleep, told the mirror he had a plan. Fear looks different in your 30s than your 50s, but the hands tell the truth in both decades. By noon, he'd turned down the music and turned up the pitch. "Big investor tour soon," he whispered to a trainer, as if money were weather you could predict. His hands kept shaking. The HOA letter came next, certified, stamped, clipped with a note from the new chair, a retired accountant who treats commas like handcuffs. Unexplained expenditures, $15,000. Provide receipts within 7 days per bylaw, 23. I've met this man at the block party. He grills hot dogs with the same focus he uses on spreadsheets. Karen read the letter at the mailbox, then again at the sink. There aren't receipts when the plants never showed up and the contractor is a cousin's cousin. Men our age have seen this story at booster clubs and church committees. Someone treats the petty cash like a wishing well, then the well runs dry. She dialed the old chair she used to charm. No answer. She drafted an email with lots of adjectives and not many attachments. The deadline printed in bold at the bottom didn't flinch. Across town, I was labeling parts bins. Order is a form of mercy. Deadlines are a form of truth. Neighborhoods talk soft at first, over fences, under breath, beside trash cans on Thursday mornings. You hear about the audit? Saw a tow at their place. Men watering lawns shake their heads the way men do when they've seen a few decades and a few divorces. The story traveled faster than the mail truck, powered by porch lights and group chats. Someone posted a photo of the recovery notice I'd taped to the Porsche window. Someone else said they'd heard shouting 2 nights in a row. Folks our age don't need details to sense a pattern. Once you see 2 bolts missing, you check the third. I fueled the shop truck and kept my mouth shut. You don't push a rumor downhill. Gravity has that job. By evening, Karen's friends liked and didn't comment. That's a vote. Chad tried to look taller at the gym, but even his shadow felt shorter. Every block has a barometer. Ours was dropping fast. At the shop, I edited a 10-minute reel the way I blueprint an engine. Clean, labeled, no extra parts. Start with the dash cam lines that don't need narration. Cut to the Hilton receipt, the cufflinks, the bank statements with circles any dad could read. Fade into the HOA numbers, simple bar chart, no jargon. End with the supplements report a client had sent me, ingredients translated into plain words, not lab noise. Older men appreciate straight talk. We've bought enough warranties to sniff out fluff. I added captions big enough to read from a folding chair and mixed the audio so her sentence, "Jack's a pushover," lands in the gut without breaking the speakers. Paperwork isn't sexy, but truth carries its own baseline. I tested the projector against the garage door, checked the brightness, the angle, the pause. Then I filled out the festival booth application. Classic restoration showcase. The plan wasn't revenge. It was recall of facts, choices, promises. The morning of the 4th smelled like cut grass and charcoal. Flags hung from porches that never agree on politics but always agree on fireworks. I parked my booth near the main stage with a banner, Route 66 Garage, Restoration Stories, and a projector that looked innocent in daylight. Men my age know festivals, kids with snow cones, dads comparing smokers, moms policing sunscreen, veterans leaning into the shade. I ran cable clean, taped edges flat so no one tripped, then tested the screen angle one more time. The volunteer coordinator checked my permit and smiled. "Love classic car stuff," he said. "Me too. This crowd gets engines, chores, mortgage rates, and college bills. The sturdy center of America that doesn't make headlines but pays for them." Across the park, Karen and Chad arrived dressed like success feels, all white and confidence. She had a note card. He had a handshake for everyone. I had a remote in my pocket and a schedule to keep. The MC tapped the mic and asked for a cheer. The crowd obliged because kids learn that sound by age 5. Please welcome our outgoing HOA chair, Karen Miller, and wellness consultant, Chad Johnson. Applause polite, curious, the way folks clap for a neighbor they've seen at the mailbox. Karen's smile was tight at the corners, the kind you hold with shoulder muscles. Chad stood half a step back, chin up, ready to sell air with confidence. I watched from my booth, remote warm in my palm, the projector fan whispering behind me. She cleared her throat and started with, "New chapter. Community. Moving forward." Men my age can hear filler from across a field. The sun made the screen glow blank and harmless. I waited for the second sentence, the one that usually thanks people by first name. That was my cue. The spaces between words felt like a countdown. I could feel Mike somewhere in the crowd, still, steady. I pressed play. The screen lit up behind them with the inside of a Porsche and voices that didn't know about today. "Jack's a pushover," her voice said, calm as a calendar. A ripple moved through folding chairs like wind through corn. Chad looked back at the screen, then at me, then at the crowd. I didn't speak. The captions spoke. "Just a few more weeks, the house is yours. Sell the garage, use the money." A dad holding a toddler stopped bouncing. An older couple leaned forward like a radio just cleared. I kept the audio clean, no edits, no drama, just the tape doing what tape does. Karen's mouth opened, then closed. Chad stepped toward the mic, but sound techs have reflexes. The mic went quiet. The reel shifted to photos, receipt, cufflinks, date stamps you can see from a picnic table. The MC froze, eyes on the screen like the rest of us. Truth is loud even without volume. The reel rolled on, bank lines in simple fonts, arrows pointing to places any homeowner recognizes. Then the HOA slide, $15,000 labeled landscaping with no landscape. A few heads turned toward the new chair like he held a gavel. He didn't. He held a clipboard. We cut to the supplement analysis, plain words on plain labels, starch and a cheap laxative, laid next to a $300 price tag. Men over 50, no salesman. We've bought miracle hoses that kink and knives that dull in a week. The crowd murmured, then sharpened. A neighbor whispered, "I bought that stuff," and his buddy squeezed his shoulder like a lug nut finally breaking free. I ended with terms they'd used, pushover, sell it off, upgrade everything, and a slide that said, "Neighbors deserve better." No victory lap, just an offer. Route 66 Garage 20% discount for residents next week. The MC reached for a script that didn't apply anymore. Karen reached for a story that no longer fit. Booing isn't common at a barbecue. It started as a cough and became a weather system. "Refunds," someone shouted. "Where'd the money go?" Someone else. A few phones tilted up, red recording lights steady as lighthouses. Karen tried the mic. The speakers stayed faithful to truth. Chad made for the steps, but steps have a way of slowing you down when you want to be fast. They moved sideways through lawn chairs and coolers, faces flushing the color of overcooked ribs. I didn't chase. I stood by my booth, hands folded, the way men stand at graves when there's nothing left to say but respect. A neighbor I'd fixed a mower for squeezed my shoulder. "About time," he said. The projector fan spun down. The crowd's anger didn't. Across the grass, 2 security volunteers walked, not ran, toward the exit, calm as crossing guards. Karen and Chad reached the parking lot and kept going. The screen went white. The day kept its color. By sunset, the reel lived a dozen lives I didn't upload. Neighbors texted it to cousins. Cousins posted it to Facebook. Facebook carried it to people who used to live here and still watch our parades from far away. I don't chase likes, but the numbers climbed like temperature in July. Comments from men my age sounded familiar. Been there, Paper first. Proud of you, brother. The HOA chair emailed me for copies. I sent the folder, clean as a parts tray. A former client messaged. He had bought Chad's powder and wanted a refund, not a fight. I told him to call the number on the label and keep the receipt warm. The clip hit a neighborhood blog, then a city subreddit. That's when a local producer called my shop landline and asked two things. Are you Jack Miller? And can you talk on camera? I said yes to the first question and when to the second. I agreed. The producer sent a reporter and a cameraman who moved like they'd done Heartbreak before. We shot under the shop sign because shade reads honest. She asked me to tell the story in nouns and dates. I spoke the way I tune an idle, steady, no revving. Then they visited 3 customers who'd bought Chad's supplements. One showed rashes, another showed a credit card bill, a third showed a pantry full of canisters nobody in the house would finish. The station hired a lab to test a sealed tub. The results came back dull and ugly, mostly starch, laxative-level filler, no listed actives in meaningful amounts. The reporter called the number on the label. A voicemail promised wellness and never called back. She gathered vendor complaints and a lease application that smelled like wishful thinking. At 4, she texted me the promo line. Tonight at 10, the wellness that wasn't. At 10, my phone buzzed so hard it walked across the workbench. The morning after the segment, a certified letter waited in Karen's mailbox with that green slip that says someone else is keeping score. The HOA chair laid it out in plain English. Documentation overdue, discrepancies unresolved, bylaws triggered, referral prepared for law enforcement if materials failed to arrive by close of business Friday. No adjectives, just dates. I've received letters like that for permits. They're never angry, only final. She drove to the HOA office with a folder that looked heavy and opened it to show almost nothing. The chair listened, then pointed to the line about receipts. He wasn't cruel. He was exact. Later that afternoon, a patrol car stopped by for an interview. The officer's tone was the same one I used telling a customer a head gasket is gone. Fair, calm, not negotiable. Karen called 3 friends. Voicemail answered. She called Chad. He answered on speaker with a joke. The officer didn't laugh. He asked for dates. By week's end, the cracks became a canyon. Neighbors started hearing their arguments at odd hours. Midnight, dawn, the stretch in between when men our age wake to use the bathroom and listen to houses settle. Words turned into thuds, then back into words nobody keeps. I didn't camp at the window. I fixed brakes, swapped a water pump, and let the phone tell me what it needed to. A buddy on the force texted, "Domestic call, no injuries, documented." I've heard that phrase after Thanksgiving dinners gone wrong and in parking lots after high school games. It means the pot boiled and the lid bent, but the stove still works. Karen posted a quote about resilience, then deleted it. Chad posted a workout video with the music too loud and the comments turned off. At 2 a.m., a plate shattered. At 7, a curtain was open that never used to be. The morning looked in. The truth didn't blink. Once the investigation didn't stop at TV. 2 of Chad's former clients filed complaints with the Consumer Protection Office. 3 more joined after the 10 o'clock segment. Paper attracts paper. The lab report slid into the case file. Credit card disputes piled on top. On Friday, officers visited the gym with a warrant that read like a parts list. Computers, product samples, customer records. Men our age have watched enough cop shows to know the sound of a back office going quiet. Chad tried to talk big, then talked less, then didn't talk at all. They walked him out in cuffs past a row of treadmills still counting calories. Someone from the morning news caught the shot from the sidewalk. The clip aired at noon between weather and a car commercial. Bond was set later that day. The booking photo showed a man who suddenly believed in gravity. I filled a work order and looked at the clock. Timing again. Indeed, charges didn't land on Karen, but consequences did. To avoid a criminal case on the HOA funds, she agreed to repay the balance and accept community service. The judge spoke in practical tones I recognize from service writers. Do the work, bring receipts, come back on time. A month later, I passed a highway cleanup crew in orange vests under a sun that forgives no one. There's a particular bend near the river where wind stacks litter like failed plans. I didn't slow down to stare. I kept the truck steady and let the moment pass like a rig in the right lane. Men my age understand mercy isn't a performance. It's a choice not to throw another stone. That afternoon, a neighbor sent a photo of the crew from 3 cars back, then apologized for sending it. I deleted the message and tightened a belt on a pickup. Work remains, the road stays long, respect goes quiet and straight. The mortgage clock ticked the way clocks do when you pretend they don't. Missed payments stacked, warnings turned into actions, and a notice of sale appeared in public records like a fence post in plain dirt. I hired a lawyer who talks softer than Parker and wears shoes that never squeak. He handled the auction without adjectives. Men our age hire professionals for roofs and courtrooms. We climb ladders only when we must. The sale happened in a county room that smells like paper and floor wax. A handful of bidders shuffled, some for banks, some for themselves. When the address came up, my proxy raised a numbered card and didn't blink. Competitors looked at comps and risk and stepped back. The gavel sounded like a socket seating on a stubborn nut. Sold, terms recorded, window closed. Outside, the day kept moving, indifferent and bright. I drove to the shop and checked the calendar. Another Thursday, another torque spec right. I didn't need a victory parade. I needed clean paperwork. Title moved to a LLC I'd set up months ago, as tidy as a labeled drawer. The registered agent filed the deed the following week, and the county site updated after lunch like it always does, quietly. Older men know that relief happens online now. The line we stand in is digital, the stamp a PDF. I walked the property with a locksmith and a notepad, not to gloat, but to list what a new owner lists. Gutters, outlets, locks, paint, silence. The rooms felt like a staged house after an open house clears, echoes, dust, and sunlight that tells the truth whether you want it or not. I took down 2 framed slogans and left the nails for later patching. No shouting, no trophies, no speeches. The mail slot clicked with flyers, and I stacked them for recycling. On the way out, I turned the key twice. The tumblers sounded right. Back at the shop, I found her silk scarf where I'd left it months ago, folded on the corner of Bay 3 like an old magazine nobody claims. Hermes, orange box gone, story intact. I used it to polish the Mustang's hood, slow circles that fade fingerprints and leave a shine you can see your decisions in. Men my age keep tokens, not trophies, just reminders, lucky sockets, ticket stubs, bolts from first rebuilds. This scarf changed categories today. I slid a small brass hook into the cinder block wall above the workbench and hung the silk where evening light lands. Customers ask about the carb, the paint code, the torque curve. Sooner or later, someone will ask about the scarf. I'll say, it's a maintenance story. Cars fail when you stop tending them. Marriages, too. I turned off the radio and let the quiet settle like fresh oil. Outside, cicadas warmed up. Inside, the Mustang's reflection held steady and true, all night. Evening drops its light on the water as I steer my 1969 Mustang along the coast. The V8 is steady, not loud. It doesn't need to be. I roll the window down and let salt air do what it does, clean out the corners. I've rebuilt engines for half my life, but this year I rebuilt something quieter. My name, my sleep, my future. Cars can lie, dashboards can lie, people can lie, but wrenches don't. Torque to spec, truth to spine. That's the rule. If this story hit something in you, drop the word wrench in the comments so I know you heard the click. Tell me the one thing you're going to maintain this week. Your truck, your budget, your marriage. Choose, maintain, or break down. I'll read notes because men like us keep receipts. Next week I'm starting a new build at Route 66 Garage and maybe a new life to match. Different road, same hands. See you there.